So happy St George's Day to anybody celebrating today, whether you've just got a flag out a window or you're going down the pub for a few pints with your mates. I sincerely hope you have a great time. But I wanted to talk today on this day about the impact of Britain and the impact of England across the world historically, because it's all well and good to love your country, be patriotic. Those are all fine things to do, fine things to have. But everybody seems to forget the colonialism and the empire and the persecution of people across the planet. 3/4 of the Earth's surface was at one point dominated by Britain, by British people and by the British governments. We had concentration camps in Asia and in Africa. We colonised most of Africa, bled its resources dry, and that's why Africa is so impoverished today. We've done all these things throughout history. We've raped, we've killed, we've murdered, we've slaughtered, we've burnt down villages. And I'm not saying these are the only things that Britain has contributed to the world stage. I'm not saying these are the only things that matter. But it's just important to remember these things on St George's Day. Remember that England is obviously where Westminster is, which is where Great Britain as a whole is run. So England is obviously, arguably, the most predominant country in the entire Great Britain. Even our own people, the Irish, the Welsh, etc., and the Scots throughout history have been persecuted, downtrodden, and kept underfoot by central government in Westminster, by the English. So it's just important to remember that these things happen. And when you're tucking into your curry tonight, or you're drinking your German beer, your French beer, or European beers, it's just important to remember that history. I'm not saying we need to hate Britain. I'm not saying we need to hate English people and hate British people. Just remember, you can love your country and recognise the colonial history of it. If you're German and you recognise the Third Reich and the Holocaust and it was terrible and horrific and horrendous and should never ever happen again, that doesn't mean you hate Germany. It means you just hate that particular section, that particular history. And you can strive to change it. You can use your patriotism and your love of your country to change that attitude and to change that perception of Britain as this colonial power that just persecutes everyone. We can change it. Attlee changed it. After the Second World War, they voted Churchill out. Just killed a snail. They voted Churchill out and they got Attlee's Labour government in. And he come along and he put in the welfare state. He built all these social houses, built up the NHS, all these things. These are the things that we should be proud of as Brits, because we built these from the ground up. We all put in, we all pitched in. Yes, there was a Robin Hood tax at the time where the rich paid significantly more than the worse off did, and I actually fully endorse that and fully believe in that, even today, that would help and that would work brilliantly. And he built all these things up, his government and successive Labour governments built all these institutions up that are models for the rest of the world to follow around the world today. So the NHS, the welfare state, the social housing that was built on an unprecedented level. When then Thatcher came along and demolished it, most of it anyway. So they had nationalised institutions, steel, gas, coal, iron, all these kind of things that were nationalised and run by the people for the people. Under Thatcher were taken away and stripped down and sold off, and people were impoverished, put up, ostracised, left to fend for themselves, and it was all completely changed. So just remember that when you're drinking your beers tonight, when you're enjoying your curry or your takeaway, whatever it is, just remember why you can enjoy that curry, because of the history of British imperialism, which went over to India and adopted their culture, adopted their cuisine, brought it back here, and now we have these imitation restaurants in Britain that do curry and do Chinese and do all these things. This is why, largely, this is why. So, again, nobody's saying you should hate Britain, nobody's saying you should be anti-British. Just recognise the suffering that people had to go through so we can enjoy the luxuries that we enjoy today. Even our own people we would consider our own people, Irish, Welsh, Scots, who were beaten down, impoverished, brutally treated by the English throughout history. Just recognise and strive to make Britain and England a better country, a better place where we can have affordable housing, we can have an NHS that works, we can have the welfare state that is run for the benefit of the people and is run by the people. That's all. That's my St. George's Day message. So have a great time, everyone. Go out, get pissed, have a laugh, stay safe, don't get too drunk, because you might have work in the morning. Don't get too drunk, have a great time, but just remember history and remember what we need to strive to become. I'll see you in the next video.